Good morning students. Let us discuss about data transferring techniques in 8085 in this video lecture. Why is data transfer needed? A microprocessor is used merely for running simple arithmetic operations or logical functionality. It also performs many input-output actions, data transfer functions, and a lot more. We can connect several I/O devices and memory peripherals to a microprocessor. However, since different technologies are involved, there will be a difference in the speed of operation and of data transfer. Usually, when memory is connected with the microprocessor, there is not a stark difference in the processing speed, since semiconductor memories are generally easily compatible with microprocessor. However, this might not always be the case. But the problem often arises when external peripherals are connected as I/O devices. A slow I/O device won't be able to transfer data at a satisfactory rate whenever the microprocessor requests for data transfer. And usually the peripheral devices do have slower transfer rate than the processor. Maybe the processor might send 2 units of information per second, but the external device might only accept 1 unit of information per second. Or conversely, peripherals, the external device expect quicker transfer, but our microprocessor might be sending information a bit slower. Usually, when microprocessor is connected with the when my memory is connected with the microprocessor, there is not a stark difference in the processing speed, since semiconductor memories are generally easily compatible with the microprocessor. However, this might not always be the case. To avoid this problem, a number of data transferring techniques have been devised. Since constant communication is required between the external device and the processor, these data transfer techniques play a crucial role in the efficient functioning of the system with the externally connected devices. We can broadly classify the data transfer schemes into two modes: serial data transfer and parallel data transfer. Our device, the internal 8085 microprocessor, is a parallel device. Thus, it transfers 8 bits of information simultaneously over 8 data lines in the parallel I/O mode. But sometimes there are instances where using this data transfer technique might be just theoretical or impossible to apply. Using parallel data transfer can be expensive if communication is to take place over vast distance. Also, if the devices on the other hand follows the protocol of serial communication only, then it is impossible to use parallel mode. Here I have tabulated the difference between parallel data transfer and serial data transfer. Under serial data transferring technique, the data transfer is of 1 bit at a time, and it is a slower mode of data transfer since 1 bit is being transmitted or transferred at a time. The serial data transfer is preferred when data is to be sent over a long distance and the cost of cable would be too expensive. For this serial data transfer mode, the transmitter first performs parallel to serial conversion and then serial to parallel conversion at the receiver. This mode requires a single line to transfer information. The noise and errors are much lesser in serial data transferring technique, and the cables used for serial communication are much thinner, longer, and very economical too. So this is a very reliable, inexpensive and straightforward process. While we look at to the parallel data transferring technique, under this scheme, the data is transferred several bits at the same time. The data transfer is much quicker than the serial data transfer, because as I have told, in parallel data transfer, the data are being sent parallelly in several bits at the same time. So it is much faster or quicker than the serial data transfer. Parallel data transfer is preferred technique for short distance communication. No such conversations are there at both transmission and reception end as similar to that of serial data transfer communication. This mode requires multiple lines of data transfer. As multiple bits are transmitted at the same time, there is a scope for more error and noise. Here, the cables are much shorter and thicker compared to that of serial communication cable. It is also being considered as a little unreliable, expensive and complicated process. Parallel data transferring techniques. We know that under parallel data transferring scheme, multiple bits can be transmitted at the same time. Thus, for Intel 8085, 8 bits of data are sent all together using 8 parallel lines. Let us go through the different types of parallel data transferring schemes. We have programmed I/O data transfer, interrupt driven I/O data transfer, device or direct memory access data transfer. Let us study each of these transfer schemes in detail. Programmed I/O data transfer. This is a straightforward scheme under parallel data transferring mechanism. This mode is generally preferred for simple, small microprocessor system where speed is critical. This method can work under synchronous and asynchronous mode, depending on the speed and architecture of I/O devices. It can be chosen as synchronous or asynchronous. We also prefer this method when there is a small amount of information to be exchanged between the microprocessor and other devices that are placed near to the microprocessor. For example, computer, printer, etc. Using the in and out instructions, data transfer is carried out between the microprocessor and I/O devices. The microprocessor reads the data from an input port or input device using the in command. The processor sends data out from the microprocessor to output port or output port device using the out instruction. Thus, the speed of the processor and external devices matches. The data transfer process is carried out using in and out instructions. Steps in programming the programmed I/O. The processor is executing a program and encounters an instruction related to I/O operation. The processor then executes the instruction by using a command to appropriate I/O. The I/O module will perform the requested action based on the I/O command issued by the processor. It can be of a read or write and set the appropriate bit in the I/O status register. This process will be repeated and periodically check the status of I/O module until it finds that operation is completed. Synchronous data transfer method. The word synchronous means taking place at the same time. Thus, to establish communication between our processor and the device, we need to set a common clock pulse. This common clock pulse synchronizes the peripheral devices with the 8085 microprocessor. This method is used when the speed of the microprocessor Intel 8085 in this case and the external peripheral device matches with each other. If the device is ready to send data, it can indicate via the ready pin of 8085. Once the speed matches, the data transfer immediately begins. Once a signal is issued by the microprocessor to begin transferring, the microprocessor need not wait for an extended period because of the matching speed. This technique of data transfer is seldom used to communicate with I/O devices, though, because I/O devices compatible with microprocessor speed are usually not found. Hence, this method of data transfer is most commonly employed for communicating with compatible memory devices. Next, asynchronous data transfer mode. When the speed of the I/O device is slower than that of the microprocessor, we prefer the asynchronous data transfer method. As the speed of both the devices differ, the I/O device's internal timing is entirely independent of the microprocessor. Thus, they are termed to be asynchronous from each other. The term asynchronous means at irregular intervals. We implement the asynchronous data transfer method using handshaking policy. But how is this method applied and what happens next? Under the handshaking method, the microprocessor and the I/O device exchange few signals before beginning the transfer of data between them. Let us understand the flowchart of handshaking protocol. First, the microprocessor rises a ready signal and sends it to the I/O device, which is connected to it. The status of I/O device is continuously checked to see it is prepared for data transfer or not. If the data is not ready, it is checked again and again until the device signal is ready. Once the device is ready, the data transfer begins from the microprocessor to I/O device. But how does the I/O device inform the microprocessor that it is ready for data transfer? This is done by means of acknowledge signal, also known as handshake signal. The microprocessor first checks the readiness of the I/O device continuously. Once the I/O device is ready to accept data from the microprocessor, it sends the acknowledge signal ACK signal to the microprocessor. This indicates that the device is all set for the reception of data. Now the data transmission can finally take place. What happens if the opposite is supposed to happen? What if the I/O device has to submit information to the microprocessor? In such a situation, the I/O device issues the ready signal back to 8085, informing it that it is ready to send data to the processor. In response to this ready signal, a valid data signal is sent by the 8085 to the I/O device, and then the valid information is put on the common data bus for data transfer. We can conclude by saying that under parallel I/O data transfer method, the microprocessor is always busy checking the status of slower I/O devices continuously for sharing data. Thus, some amount of time is wasted on the microprocessor behalf. Additionally, this method of data transfer is used by I/O devices and slow external memory peripherals. Next, interrupt-driven I/O data transfer. The programmed I/O data transfer unfortunately wastes a lot of time. Thus, the interrupt-driven I/O data transfer is a much better option. Here, no extra timing of microprocessor is wasted in waiting for a response signal from the external device. Under this method, the I/O devices informs the microprocessor about its readiness. Only when it is ready, this is accomplished by interrupting the Intel 8085. To begin with, the microprocessor initiates the transfer of data by sending a request to external device to be get ready. Following this, the processor continuously working normally execute the original program rather than wasting its cycle by keeping a check on status of the external I/O device. Once the I/O device is all set to transfer information, it sends a control signal to 8085 to inform its readiness. This control signal is called interrupt INTR. Once the INTR interrupt signal is received by 8085, it responds to it by submitting an INTR acknowledge signal back to the external I/O device. When the I/O device gets the acknowledgement, both the devices are now prepared for data transfer. The microprocessor completes the execution of the current instruction, then suspends the job. It saves all the content and status of program counter into the stack memory and then proceed the subroutine program. This subroutine program for the raised interrupt is called interrupt service subroutine program. This interrupt service subroutine ISR serves the status of our processor into the stack. Once the data transfer is completed, by executing the necessary instruction, the ISR restores the previous processor status and continues the normal execution of the main program. Different types of interrupt request. There are different types of interrupt request configuration that might arise when the I/O devices are interfaced with the 8085 microprocessor. They are single interrupt system, multi-interrupt system. Let us see what are all they. Single interrupt system. Under the single interrupt system, only one interrupt wire or line is available with the processor to which multiple I/O devices are to be connected to. Next, we will see about multiple interrupt system. If the microprocessor has multiple terminals and to each interrupt terminal one I/O device is to be connected, it is known as the multiple interrupt system. Here, the total number of external devices to be linked with the interrupt wire or line should be either equal to or less than the total number of interrupt terminals. Thus, one device is connected at a time to each level of the interrupt. When a device interrupts the microprocessor immediately recognizes which device has raised the interrupt signal and identifies the location in the memory where the required subroutine is stored. This kind of interrupt scheme is referred as vector interrupt. In the two schemes discussed earlier, the transfer of information between the I/O device and the mass storage device or memory is via the accumulator register. But if there is a bulk amount of data to be transferred between I/O device and the microprocessor, then these methods are unworthy of the investment being put into them and even time consuming too. To overcome such circumstance, direct memory access data transfer is put into use. This is an ideal method used for data transfer of considerable amount between the microprocessor and the I/O device. It is also considered the fastest data transferring scheme. But what makes it different from the previous two methods? In DMA scheme, the data is transferred between the I/O device and external memory directly without having any interface by accumulator register. The process gives up its control over the address bus as well as the data bus to the I/O device or direct memory access control, thus aiding the exchange of information between the source and destination directly. We will now understand the working principle of direct memory access data transfer method. First of all, we need to inform the microprocessor before beginning of the process. For this, the I/O device first sends a request to DMA control using DMA request signal, which in turn forward it to the processor in the form of hold signal, HOLD signal. Once such a request is received by the microprocessor, it ceases its control over the address bus and data bus. It then informs the DMA controller of the situation by sending a DMA acknowledge signal using HLDA command. The controller then informs the external peripheral by sending DMA acknowledge signal. The DMA control then gains control over the two buses, address bus and data bus. The DMA control then gains control over the two buses, address bus and data bus, and monitors the transfer of information between the locations. Once the entire data transfer between the I/O device and external memory gets over, the DMA control is being withdrawn and its request for using the data and address bus is being disabled, and the hold and DMA acknowledged signal are being retrieved back. Thus, the microprocessor gains the control of address bus and data bus. Types of techniques under direct memory access. There are three types of techniques under direct memory access: burst or block data transfer of DMA, cycle stealing or single byte transfer DMA, transparent or hidden DMA. Burst or block transfer DMA. This is the fastest DMA mode of data transfer. In the burst mode, at least 2 or more bytes of data are transferred continuously. That is, the entire block of data is transferred in a straight sequence. Here, the microprocessor is disconnected from the main system during the data transfer, and thus the processor is unable to execute any program on its own during the information transfer. In fact, in this mode, the DMA controller acts as a master. If there are about n number of bytes to be transferred, then n number of machine cycles will be adapted into the working of the processor. The DMA controller first sends a hold signal to microprocessor to request access for the system bus, and in turn wait for the hold acknowledgement signal. Once the hold acknowledgement signal is received, the DMA controller gets access over the system bus and send 1 byte of information. Once a single byte is sent, the memory address is incremented, the counter is decremented, and the next byte is sent. Thus, following this technique, all data bytes are transferred between memory and I/O device. Once all the information is sent, the DMA controller disables the hold signal. It then enters into slave mode. This mode is generally used for loading data files or important programs into memory. However, it keeps the CPU or microprocessor inactive for a relatively long period. Next, cycle stealing or single byte transfer DMA. In this mode, only single byte is transferred at a time. Thus, this is a much slower than burst DMA. In the cycle steal DMA, the DMA controller sends a hold signal to microprocessor. It then waits for hold acknowledge signal in return. Once the hold acknowledge signal is received, it gets access over the system bus and execute one DMA cycle once. After this transfers, the hold signal is disabled and it enters into slave mode. The processor thus gets back its control over the address and data bus and continues executing the machine cycles. However, if the counter has not touched down to 0 and there is still data to be exchanged, then the DMA controller sends a hold signal again to the microprocessor and sends the next byte of information block. Thus, only one DMA cycle takes place between every 2 machine cycles of the processor, and execution speed of the instruction in microprocessor fall back a bit. The DMA controller obtains the access for the system bus by repeatedly issuing the request using the bus request and bus grant signal until the entire data block has been transferred. Though the information bytes are not transferred as fast as in burst mode, the only advantage of cycle stealing mode is that the microprocessor does not remain idle for a long duration of time, as in the bus DMA mode. This method is mainly used in controllers which are used in monitoring data in real time. Next, transparent or hidden DMA transfer. The hidden DMA transfer method is considered the lowest among all other DMA transfers. Here, the microprocessor executes some of its states during which it floats the data bus and the address bus. In these states, the microprocessor gets isolated from the main system bus. In this isolation, the DMA controller transfers the information byte between the external peripheral and memory, thus becomes transparent to the microprocessor. The instruction execution speed of the microprocessor does not get reduced. However, this DMA mode requires external logic to sense the status in which the processor is floating the buses. This mode is favored at the time when we do not want the CPU to stop executing its main program, as the data transfer is performed only when the CPU does not need the subsystem or system bus. Nevertheless, the hardware need to check such status can be pretty complex and a little too expensive as well. Serial data transferring technique. Under the serial data transfer mode, a single bit of information or data is transmitted on a single line at a time. But how would the 8085 accomplish this? A 8-bit parallel word is first converted into a stream of 8 serial bits with the help of a parallel to serial converter. In the same way, during the serial reception of information bits, the microprocessor receives a stream of separate 8-bit one by one, which are later converted to a 8-bit parallel word with the help of a serial to parallel converter. Serial data communication can be categorized on the basis of how data transmission occur. These are simplex, half duplex and full duplex. In simplex communication, the hardware is set such that the data exchange takes place in only one direction, that is computer to printer communication. In half duplex communication allows data exchange in both directions but not at the same time. Example, a walkie-talkie. In full duplex, it permits the information transfer in both directions at the same time. That is similar to that of our telephone line. The information in serial communication can be transferred in two ways. They are synchronous serial data and asynchronous serial data transfer. Let us study each of these transfer schemes in detail. Asynchronous serial data transfer. A asynchronous format are more character oriented. Here, the bits, characters or data words are sent together at a constant rate, but the characters can arrive at any rate, that is asynchronously, provided that these do not overlap. If no characters are being transmitted over the line stays high at logic 1 called mark and logic 0 called space. At the transmission end, when a character is to be sent, it is indicated by a start bit, which is always a logical 0 signal. The signal then synchronizes the transmitter and receiver. Following this bit, the information bits are sent one bit at a time, with least significant bit sent first. The size of the character can vary and depends upon the system requirement. Once all information is sent, a parity bit might be sent at the end. After that, the stop bit is sent, which is a high signal. This stop bit indicates the end of transmission of the information bit. The start and stop bit carry no information but are just indications for the commencement and end of data exchange. The combination of start bit, character bit and stop bit is known as a frame. This mode is used in low speed transmission of information where speed might be less than 20 kilobits per second. At the receiver end, the output of transmitter is the input to the receiver. The receiver is always on the lookout of high signal transition into low signal. Once it detects a high signal that transits into low, it considers the low bit to be the start bit and only then start accepting data. Once all data is transferred, the receiver waits for the stop bit to restart looking into the next start bit. In asynchronous data transmission method, the start and stop bit include in every frame are the wasted overhead bytes, which reduce the overall character rate. We can avoid using the start and stop bit for every frame of data by synchronizing the transmitter and the receiver instead. Once synchronized, any size of data can be transferred serially. This synchronization can be done by replacing synchronous bit in the place of start and stop bit. Such a protocol is known as synchronous serial communication. These synchronous bits are transferred by the transmitter, and at the receiver end, the receiver waits to detect these 2 or 3 synchronous bits. Once detected, the transmitter and receiver are said to be synchronized and data transmission begins. Characters are received at a constant rate here, and the data transfer takes place in blocks. Synchronous serial data transfer is ideal for high-speed transmission of information. If no data bit exists, the transmitter still keeps transmitting the synchronous bits to keep synchronizing intact.